Climb into the cockpit with pilot and Link Square's Chief Legal Officer, Tim Perilla, as he invites legal leaders aboard to share advice that will help you navigate even the most turbulent times of in-house counsel work. We'll cover a range of topics from data privacy to legal team structure to public company transactions and beyond. You don't want to miss this series. Fasten your seatbelt and prepare for takeoff. You're listening to Cockpit Counsel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Cockpit Counsel. My name is Tim. I'm the Chief Legal Officer at Link Squares, and today we got Andrew Moffett from Wayfair. Welcome. Really happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Excited to have a conversation with you.
So the podcast is pilot theme. I'm a pilot. I fly small planes. We ask everybody the same question to kick off, and it's, what's your pre-flight ritual? And it's not meant to be metaphorical. It's before you get on a plane, do you have some sort of a ritual or a habit that you do every single time?
Yeah, I think my pre-flight ritual would really have to be trying to relax before getting onto the flight. So I like to show up a little bit early.
Nice.
If I can jump into a lounge, that would be great. But if not, just making sure you're there plenty of time so you can relax on the flight. So kind of basic, but really just taking it easy as you get into the flight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to get into the right mindset, particularly you're based in Santa Monica, right? So I imagine you probably are doing a number of cross-country flights per year. It's not like a 45-minute hop down to JFK from here, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And fortunately, I'm not too far from LAX given, how traffic is.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely. So it's always good to hop over to Boston or the East Coast and hang out with the team over here as well.
Did you take the red eye? Did you take a morning flight?
I took an evening flight. So I got in, late evening here, but it wasn't too bad. So
that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your background. You got a really interesting background. Wayfair, super cool company. Obviously big Boston roots with Wayfair.
Yeah.
Their offices were right across the street from us when I was at DraftKings.
Wow.
Would love to hear a bit about your career path. What brought you to Wayfair and what you're doing there now?
Yeah, I got lucky, ended up at Wayfair, somewhat of the dream job. But on the path here, right out of college, I headed out to California. Jumped into a program management role, actually. That was a quasi-product role, trying to track large data sets and how you're able to share and create insights to that. And so I built that first product on the foundation of Salesforce, really to help correlate some of that data. And then moved to New York City doing some of the very similar work, really launching product adoption throughout New York City under the new mayor, Bill de Blasio at the time, so many years ago. And that was a really cool experience as well, working in that space and launching new products and acquiring user adoption across city with government officials, which is also a challenge.
Sure.
And then I got the opportunity to move into an actual law firm. So I became embedded at a law firm to help build out a proof of concept for a product. Very similar roots of trying to share heavily compliant data across jurisdictional lines, mainly within government agencies and across state lines. And that was a proof of concept that caught fire, which was a cool experience. It took the firm by surprise. Worked on that product for 4.5, almost 5 years. Then the law firm decided they didn't want to be a technology provider, which completely made sense.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. So I got to go through the opportunity of also sharing that product out with like-minded partners in the space. So the product could live on. And then moved from there over to a company that was heavily funded by an investment firm that was really looking to acquire a lot of different startups within the legal tech space to create a more streamlined offering. So I got to move into that space and drive strategy for one of those startup companies, but also creating a streamlined approach for the product offering, which is another really cool experience. I did that for a couple of years and then landed here at Wayfair a couple of years back and getting to help build out the legal technology department at Wayfair from the ground up to help support those verticals that fall under the legal umbrella there. So it's been a pretty cool experience.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think there's absolutely a need right now for unified, cohesive, connected legal tech.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I think there are a lot of providers out there that do a fine job, for task-based or project-based tech. Like you think about the e-discovery providers and like those, even like the e-billing providers, like they do a fine job with that, and they work, right? They work really well. They make life a lot easier than chasing and gathering gathering emails with the help of your IT team, right? And then somehow having people review them. But when you think about the day in and day out of the in-house legal team, there needs to be unification across the products. You have your matter management products out there. You have your CLM products out there. You have your entity management products. You have your IP, your IP management products out there. But I think what's missing is that unification. And that's like a really critical part that I think is holding legal teams back from really being able to participate with the business the same way that the rest of their business counterparts do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to that point, it's a real balance of trying to make sure that you're not introducing a bunch of new tools to the legal team, but also creating or adopting tools that do allow for that streamlined approach where they do have that interconnectedness so you're not constantly hopping around.
Right.
But then also trying to find tools that do more than just one thing, that where you can actually bring them into one suite. And so trying to find that balance to where you're not constantly trying to boil the ocean of bringing a tool that can do everything and usually everything poorly versus bringing in some tools that are really well-founded and have just a large user base that's helped inform the product that really helps streamline some of the work that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So aside from, and I think we may be going a little bit off of what we had planned to talk about, but I think that's probably how this thing's going to go.
Totally. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about things besides contracts that are a big focus for you?
Yeah. So for better or worse at Wayfair, and I think the expansion of GCs within the corporate environment, we do have a large umbrella of verticals that funnel up into that. And so everything from like government relations to compliance to real estate, litigation, employment, and then legal ops. And so I think for Wayfair, we're really trying to take a pragmatic approach to make sure that we're investing into technologies that actually make sense to solve the basics, not always trying to embrace the most leading buzzword and technologies across the board, but really honing in on that pragmatic approach. And so making sure that we're kicking the tires to find tools that actually work for us, that are solving some of those basic needs. And really the core of a lot of these tools is to allow our attorneys to work at the high end of their license. So they're not getting stuck in these mundane tasks.
Right.
And so everything from, streamlining our case management systems to integrate with a lot of our internal proprietary solutions, is really what's key for us in terms of trying to reduce some of that redundancy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that lawyers spend just especially in-house lawyers, an unbelievable amount of time doing relatively low-value work.
Absolutely.
I talk about it a lot. Say we at LinkSquares build software that automates things that anybody can do so that lawyers can do things that only lawyers can do.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we're building products that don't help with that, we're missing our mission and we're missing our mark.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And I think that's really critical. I mean, you have some great talent, great folks that are working on those products, but you really want to, or projects, you really want to elevate their abilities to focus in on what's most valuable to the company as we continue to, and within legal at Wayfair, enable the business to expand not only with our market, but the better customer experience at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you're in town for a conference. What are you speaking about?
Yeah, we're going to be, one of the verticals that rolls up into legal at Wayfair is compliance across the board. So that's product and supplier compliance. And we'll be discussing a lot of the technologies that are in the e-commerce space that are helping correlate the data that is currently siloed across the supply chain, everything from really far upstream of ensuring that you don't have products based with lead-based paint or cotton from child labor regions around the world,
right,
all the way to the end of the product life cycle, being like after you purchase a product from Wayfair, if there are recalls or damages, like how do you take that data to help inform upstream so that you're continuing to improve the customer experience. And so that's mainly going to be the focus for our conference on Tuesday.
It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun, yeah. I spend a lot of time in that space currently as compliance and making sure customers have the best possible experience and a safe experience is always a priority. So
yeah, that's
excited
awesome
about it.
So what are you doing for the weekend?
Yeah, hopefully avoiding the rain. So
Right.
here in Boston, but just I think we're going to try to get out on the water and
That'll
do
be great.
a tour of the city from that perspective. So
Yeah, absolutely. So how big is your team at Wayfair?
yeah, so the legal team itself has, I think, we've grown a lot over the last couple of years, but I think about 50 attorneys and then many other teams that help support and prop up the legal team itself. Then our legal team, we have several engineers that help support the legal team. I think we're about 5 deep now. And
that's great.
we operate really as like a tiger team. So of course at Wayfair, there are many teams that are engaging with legal driving initiatives.
Yep.
But we also have our dedicated legal technology team that's able to go in and help push initiatives that are specific to the legal team itself.
That's incredible. So you're able effectively to have enough influence throughout the broader organization to make meaningful process change then.
Yeah, and it allows us to accelerate that change as well.
Yeah.
We don't, a lot of the compliance things or legal driving initiatives aren't as exciting and sexy as some of the other initiatives that are happening within Wayfair. So it really frees up the legal team from having to go and make those persuading arguments and allows us to really just funnel in face first to enable the business to be successful within whatever initiative it would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I mean that's incredible to get to that size and scale to be able to have have your own engineers. Gosh,
yeah,
that's so nice.
It's an incredible experience. I mean, even at
Yeah.
my last law firm, we were constantly just contracting out different engineering pods, and it made it really challenging to really create that product vision and carrying it forward. And that's what's really cool about Wayfair is that our head of General Counsel, Enrique, is really pragmatic, but also innovative and thinking of how do we get ahead and not miss a train on anything that's happening within the market space.
Yeah.
Always with caution, of course, as attorneys always are.
Yeah.
But it's been a really cool experience to be on a team that feels that we're here to help enable the business to expand and be successful. So.
Yeah, exactly. To be a truly centered around customer service and viewing yourselves as servants to the business, which really a legal team is.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Without the business, there's nothing to legal on.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of times there's a perception that legal is holding the business back, and that's just been completely contradictory to my experience at Wayfair of really trying to enable the business to move faster in a very cautious but innovative mind frame.
You're fortunate. You've got Enrique, who's one of the best of the best.
Yeah, it's incredible working with him. Yeah, totally.
So, so thinking about legal tech maybe a little bit more broadly, you've been in this space for a number of years. What have you seen in terms of sort of the evolution of the technology, and what do you think has been the primary driver for the increase in adoption of broader legal tech beyond sort of that e-discovery, e-billing stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, law firms are hard to change and adaptation is somewhat challenging. And I think, remember being back at the embedded at a law firm when we had to go down to an old storage unit and pull up, almost 50 boxes of past legal documents.
Yeah.
And it was really challenging to really persuade the value of having even the e-discovery tools. But I think that going through COVID really helped force a lot of this enablement of leveraging technology within the legal space and really broke down some of those barriers for attorneys on what actually technology can do and how it can actually reduce some of the more mundane tasks. And so I really think that that's been a huge enabler of allowing an increasing user adoption to help us with a lot of automation. I think it's not as exciting as some of the other technologies in the space today, but really honing in on just fixing some of the core problems and challenges and identifying those before just jumping into solutioning. So I think that's really been a huge benefit to really just increasing user adoption, I think, is really a big piece of it, and getting everybody on board. Because if you have some folks that are not involved in the environment of the tools or the products in which you're engaging, then it makes it really challenging to have that through line of efficiency. And so making sure everyone's on board is really important.
I think that's critical to the adoption of any technology.
Absolutely.
Like legal departments aside.
Yeah.
And that's been something that, for me when I was at DraftKings, like, we bought link squares, right? We bought the post signature product, back in 2017, 2016, maybe something like that. And, I told my team, I was like, if you're going to spend money on it, you've got to use it.
Right.
And you've got to buy into it. You have to have a process transformation. Like that. That's really what it is. And I think that's where, it's no different with Looker or Snowflake or
Absolutely.
any other SaaS product, any other technology that you're going to implement. I mean, imagine if you go and you buy NetSuite and like only 30% of your finance team actually uses it. Like that's a big problem.
Huge.
Like a real big problem.
Right. Yeah.
Or you think about Paylocity and HR, you think about, probably very different, but like GitHub.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
You think about that. And historically, that's how legal teams have operated, right? They're like, well, you know what? It's more of a pain in the butt for me to put this contract into this system or this matter into this matter management system. I'm just going to, look at it on my phone, be like, yeah, go ahead and sign it and let the, let the transaction go on. The problem with that is that you don't actually get any of the benefits of the system without using the system.
Totally.
And the system is there to help you scale. And I drive this a lot and would love to get your perspective on it. Think nowadays, if you're a GC, with maybe a few rare exceptions, depending on the type of company or industry you're in, if you are not bringing data to the table, you're not doing your job. It's not enough to just be good at the legal work, right? You have to be able to quantify the contribution you're making to the business, or just full stop, you're not good at your job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think leveraging the data across the board, and a lot of times allowing the product to not only speak for itself, to show the impact and how it can actually level out or ease up some of the burdens within the everyday tasks, but also finding those internal champions that really want to engage with these products. And then that word of mouth really does help broaden the adoption of any tool. And then I also think like having just good old-fashioned trainings with some of these folks, regardless of how senior they are, they can be really innovative and really want to engage with technology. Mm-hmm. And then you have some others that are just somewhat more cautious at having, just a quick training with them or guiding them through. And there are a lot of tools now that are really nice to where they have that product guidance throughout it when you get onto it, and you need, quick tips on how to navigate the interface.
Sure.
So I think a combination of those efforts really do increase user adoption.
Yep.
And having just that broad environment, which, again, very fortunate at Wayfair that we do, of really embracing technologies and how it can actually support and ease some of our everyday tasks. Automation helps out a lot too.
It absolutely does. And, you think about this, whether it's the sales folks or I myself do a lot of this. I write a lot about selling the dream. Right. What is the end state that you're looking for as a general counsel? One where you provide enhanced visibility to the business as to the work that your team's performing. You are able to quantify the work that your team is performing, and you're able to put it into context as to how that helps the business. Right. If you're able to do that, and everything else just kind of flows from that. Mm-hmm. And so the software that you use should help further one or many of those objectives.
Totally.
And as a leader, you have to make sure that your team is on board and believes that that is going to help them as lawyers be better at their jobs, have a better career path at their organization, have a better career path at the organization that they're going to go to next.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And so you have some temporary pain because it's like keeping your room clean, right?
Totally.
You may not want to do, organize things and do what you need to do, but if you just let it fall apart, you're going to have a messy room.
Right.
And everyone who walks in is going to recognize that it's a messy room.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just you that's hidden.
Yeah.
Like everybody sees it. And it's the same thing with the legal team. If you're a mess, if you're unorganized, then, maybe with being a disorganized, chaotic mess, you can get 99% of the work done. But when somebody recognizes that 1%, it feels like 99%.
Right.
Because of that chaos. If you're organized and you're transparent about the work that's being done, if you happen to be missing some things, I don't think anyone's really going to critique you because you're doing everything else right.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's really honing in on the problem that you're trying to solve. And so once you identify the core of that problem, you bring on the champions to help solve it, and they really start feeling the impacts. And then you're able to level up the data and insights across the board of time saved or greater efficiencies or automation. And you start telling that story. And once you're able to start sharing that story across the business, you really do have that growth that greater user adoption, because everyone can actually identify or resonate with the story that you're sharing and just the success of that. And I think, again, it's really about trying to solve the right problem at the right time with the right tools and folks. Mm-hmm. The last thing you want to do is identify a solution to a problem, roll out a new tool, and then realize you missed the mark, and a year later, here we are stuck in the same spot.
Right.
And so I think, again, just like back to like my basic product roots of trying to solve that right problem at the right time with the right folks.
And I think a lot of times legal teams have struggled with being able to articulate effectively the problem that the legal team is having. And that's where folks like you come in, right, to help get to the bottom of that and say, like, all right, this is actually your problem, right?
Yeah. And, there's a lot of, especially within the environment of like, you have a lot of legal jargon that a lot of other people can't understand or don't fully resonate with. And so a fun part of my job with being in legal tech for, the last several years is getting familiar with speaking that jargon as well and trying to translate that over into some of our technology side of our team to make sure that, again, we're driving towards a right goal and that it's going to solve this specific issue at hand. And it's fortunate that we do have a legal team that is very innovative and does look forward to embracing technology, and so that does make it a lot easier as well.
Yeah,
so.
it's a fun part. Like, to be honest with you, a lot of practicing law can be painfully boring, like very, very boring, right? And so when you're able to diversify the things that you're working on, whether that's specific legal matters that you're working on or types of issues that you're working on, or it's just generally different things that you're working on, like implementing and solving a tech problem that then like makes something that was maybe a little chaotic or a little bit broken run like a well-oiled machine.
Totally.
Like gives you a sense of immediate, relatively immediate like gratification, right?
Yeah.
So much of legal work can be something where if you do your job effectively, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's trying to get the legal team to help enable the business to move into some of these more exciting spaces and allowing the thought partnership and brainstorming within even the legal verticals to have some overlap. So you're not getting stuck in your single lane. Just because you work in like the litigation vertical doesn't mean you're completely separated from like the real estate side and how do these two teams engage? What tools or best practices that they're using help, ease up some of their everyday tasks. And then bringing in the broader business, like how do you have thought partnerships within your different teams across the board? Like what is marketing doing? How are the folks over like in the engineering side actually looking at things and really leveraging the tools as a corporate entity itself to make sure that we are not only supporting each other, but leveraging tools that actually make sense and be connected across the company and not just within the legal sphere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So for in-house legal teams that are just sort of getting started with implementing technology, what advice would you give to maybe your first time GC coming in, first lawyer at the company, or maybe even replacing and inheriting a team of a few attorneys who really have an underdeveloped tech stack? What advice do you give that leader?
Yeah, take a pragmatic approach. And I would say, don't always rush towards the most shiny solution. Really try to understand a problem, fix the basics, bring in champions, like-minded folks that want to try to innovate within the space. don't be afraid to kick the tires on the old things, the old processes you've had. Don't get stuck in the rut of doing the same thing because that's the way you've always done it, and really trying to embrace technologies. But again, you don't want to run towards a solution that you're going to have to replace just because it's, got a really good marketing campaign. You want to make sure that you're actually fixing the basics and trying to solve the core issues at hand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think about it as almost like a walk before you run.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
As far as, from your perspective, what is one thing you wish that GCs understood about your role?
Well, being at Wayfair,
or maybe there's 10.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, being at Wayfair, I'm constantly going back and forth of what product manager is. I'm not actually managing physical products that we sell to our customers, but actual tools and services that we leverage and build ourselves. But really, it's creating the through line of how all of these various verticals that roll up into RGC are interconnected, and that legal is here to actually help enable the business and not hold us back. And I think, again, really lucky to be at Wayfair, to where we have really innovative thought partners and leaders that allow us to engage with these different tools and services. We have a whole team at Wayfair called Wayfair Next that's really kicking the tires on a lot of these innovative technologies of the future, and how legal has representation there. Again, not to hold back that campaign, but to really help push us forward on how we can start considering these tools and leveraging them within our own verticals across the company.
That's awesome. So does Wayfair look at, and I'll use this broadly, but like every other support function, right? Your finance team, your HR team, et cetera. Does Wayfair also have you for each of those teams?
For a lot of them, we do have product leaders within the space that are helping drive those initiatives.
Yeah.
But what's unique about legal is we are so cross-functional. We're engaged with almost every single department within the company. And so a lot of them may have a more narrow focus on their domain specifically, as legal is so broad in terms of we want to be involved in a little bit of everything, and we should be. And so, Wayfair has invested very heavily in thought partnership and product managers and really good engineering managers as well. We're pretty well-funded engineering teams across the board, which makes it a pleasure to work with most of the time, because you can really identify some of those technologies you want to implement that not only enable legal, but legal driving initiatives across the board, and having tech partners that help support that initiative make it a lot easier.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's a luxury, and I'm sure you're loving every second of it.
Yeah. I mean, it really is like, and I've got a dream team of engineers that I work with, and a lot of the partners in the space. And Wayfair really does have a community feel to it when you're in there. So we're all there to help each other. We're all driving toward the same mission of trying to make sure that our customers have the best experience and have the best product offering. So
it's awesome. So are there so you started your career working in PMO, right?
Yeah. Yes.
How has that shaped the way that you approach your current, right, going from PMO into product specific? How has that transition been? What are some of the skills that you carried over, and do you think there are any skills that either from how you run a product org or being a part of the PMO or running a PMO that you think lawyers should explore, develop, take to heart, think about?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the technology in this space over the last 10 to 15 years have dramatically accelerated and have really helped connecting communities, connecting stakeholders, breaking down barriers of how you share data. But I think across the board, the core thing that's been most successful is building those relationships with your customers, your stakeholders, and your partners in the space. So regardless if it's a PMO role or in the product, or just building and really focusing in on those relationships, again, so you truly understand your customer, what you're trying to solve, and that we're doing it together. We're trying to ultimately solve the challenge at hand. And a lot of times technology can help us with that, and other times it just takes a lot of good folks in the same room to hash it out and break down the problem to identify what the long-term solution will be.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I think we're running up close to time, but I know we've got a bunch of questions from folks here. Alyssa, maybe we'll turn it over to you for a minute.
Yes. All right. So what is your hot take about legal tech?
Yeah. Legal tech, it's an exciting space to be in now. I think, CLMs are advancing, really helping with automation and extracting and providing insights to a lot of our data. I think cybersecurity is going to be an ever more focused in on space. Legal tech's helping with, again, I've said it a million times, I think, through this, but really automation, helping remove some of those mundane tasks, enabling our attorneys to focus in on the work at the top of their license and focus on the stuff that they actually want to be working on. Then also democratizing access to legal. And so I think that as technology continues to advance, it's really opening up the space across the globe on who has access and how they can access different legal research or attorneys directly, or in some rare cases, attorneys that are completely driven by technology. And so I think it's an exciting space to be in.
Awesome. All right. How about, what is your number one tip for change management when deploying legal tech?
Yeah, I think really finding those champions within this space. You really want to make sure that you have individuals there that are really supportive of trying to implement a new solution. So you're not constantly trying to convince everyone at the helm to adopt and leverage the product, but truly helping bring those champions in and those like-minded folks to help you carry the message forward. So relationships help.
Great. And then last one, how do you present the progress and success of legal tech to leadership?
Yeah, I think sharing the story, showing the data of the amount of redundancies and nuances that can be eliminated or reduced, and then sharing that data up, but really sharing the story across the board on how we can continue to enable the business to expand into new markets, provide better products within the marketplace that are compliant, and ultimately giving us a more satisfied customer.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Andrew, thanks so much. It's been an incredible conversation. Enrique is super lucky to have you.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for joining, and definitely come back and see us next time you're in Boston.
Absolutely.
Would love to do this again. So
yeah,
really
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. And for those watching, listening, follow us on the socials, give us a like, and we'll see you next time.